When HOA President Margaret slapped my disabled daughter and ripped away her oxygen tube, she thought she was intimidating a helpless family. She had no idea my mother was a CIA operative who had spent decades protecting innocent people from monsters just like her. Some mistakes don't just cost you, they destroy you. The courtroom was packed with neighbors, their whispers blending into a low, restless hum that twisted my stomach with anxiety. I sat in the front row, my 16-year-old daughter Emma beside me in her wheelchair, her small hand trembling in mine. The oxygen tank next to her released soft, steady hisses as she breathed through the nasal cannula. Her pale face was turned toward the judge's bench, but I could still see the fear in her bright blue eyes. None of this should have happened. It all began 6 months earlier, when we moved into Willowbrook Estates, a quiet suburban neighborhood lined with trees and perfectly trimmed lawns. Emma had been battling a rare lung condition for 3 years. After countless hospital stays, the doctors finally allowed her to come home with portable oxygen equipment. I thought a peaceful neighborhood would help her heal. I was wrong. The first week felt like a dream. Every morning, Emma sat on the front porch reading her books, breathing in the fresh air through her oxygen tube. She loved watching the birds and waving at neighbors passing by. Some even stopped to talk, asking about her condition with genuine concern. For the first time in years, I saw hope returning to her eyes. Then the letter came. It arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a woman with perfectly styled blonde hair and a permanent scowl. She introduced herself as Margaret Thornton, president of the Willowbrook Estates Homeowners Association. Dressed in a crisp white blouse and navy blazer, she held her clipboard like it was a weapon. "I'm here about your daughter's medical equipment," she said, skipping any form of politeness. The oxygen tank and wheelchair create an unsightly appearance that violates community standards. I stared at her, convinced I had misunderstood. "Excuse me?" Section 4.3 clearly states that no medical equipment or mobility devices should be visible from the street. Your daughter's equipment disrupts the aesthetic of the neighborhood. Heat rushed to my face. That's my daughter's life support. She can't survive without it. Margaret didn't even blink. Then perhaps this isn't the right neighborhood for your situation. The way she said situation made my blood boil. Emma wasn't a situation. She was a brave, intelligent young girl fighting for her life every single day. "You can't be serious," I said, my voice rising. "You're asking me to hide my disabled daughter because she doesn't fit your perfect image? I'm asking you to follow the rules everyone else follows," Margaret replied coldly. "You have 30 days to fix the violations, or we will take legal action." Then she turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the pavement like a ticking countdown. That night, I held Emma as she cried. She had heard everything. "Mom, maybe we should move," she whispered. "I don't want to cause problems." "Absolutely not," I said firmly. "This is our home. You have every right to sit on your own porch and breathe fresh air. You are not a problem." But Margaret was only getting started. Over the next few weeks, she made our lives unbearable. She filed noise complaints about Emma's oxygen machine. She reported our wheelchair ramp for not being approved. She even called the police, claiming Emma's medical equipment was a fire hazard. Each day brought something worse. Margaret would show up with her clipboard and measuring tape, documenting every inch of our property. She took photos of Emma sitting on the porch, circled our house in her car, and encouraged neighbors to file complaint against us. The worst part was watching Emma slowly disappear. She stopped going outside. She stopped reading on the porch. She stayed in her room most of the time, only coming out for doctor visits. The bright, hopeful girl I had seen just weeks earlier was fading, and I felt completely powerless. I hired a lawyer, but the legal fees drained our savings quickly. The HOA had their own legal team, and they knew exactly how to drag things out. Meanwhile, the stress was taking a toll on Emma's health. Then came the breaking point. It was a rainy Thursday morning. Emma had been struggling all week, her breathing more difficult than usual. I stayed home from work to care for her, and we were both exhausted. She asked if she could sit on the covered porch to listen to the rain. She loved the sound of water hitting the roof. I helped her into her wheelchair and carefully placed the oxygen tank beside her. We had only been outside for about 20 minutes when Margaret's silver BMW pulled into the driveway. She stepped out wearing a yellow raincoat, her clipboard in hand. "This is your final warning," she announced as she marched up the porch. "Your daughter's presence here is still a violation." "My daughter has every right to be here," I said, standing between her and Emma. "Not when she's creating a spectacle." Margaret snapped. "Look at this equipment, this display of illness. It's lowering property values." Emma's face crumpled. At 16, she understood every word. "Please stop," she whispered, her voice weak through the oxygen tube. "I'm not trying to hurt anyone." Margaret's expression twisted with disgust. "Don't try to manipulate me with that pathetic voice. You and your mother are freeloaders who think disability gives you special privileges." "That's enough," I shouted, but Margaret wasn't finished. "You know what I think?" she continued, her voice rising. "I think this whole illness is fake. I think you're pretending for sympathy. Real sick people don't parade around in public, making everyone uncomfortable." Emma started crying, her breathing becoming uneven. I moved toward her, but Margaret stepped closer. "Oh, here come the tears," she sneered. "How convenient. Get away from my daughter. I warned." But she didn't listen. "Your daughter is a fraud," Margaret snapped, "and I'm going to prove it." Then she did something unthinkable. She reached forward and ripped the oxygen cannula from Emma's nose. "Let's see how sick you really are without your props." Emma gasped, her face turning pale as she struggled for air. I lunged to reconnect the tube. "You're insane," I shouted. "Stop the act." Margaret yelled, and then she slapped her. The sound echoed across the porch like a gunshot. Emma's head snapped to the side as a small cry escaped her lips. Blood trickled from her nose where the tube had been torn away. For a moment, everything froze. Margaret stood there, her hand still raised, a look of cruel satisfaction on her face. Emma sat in shock, touching her cheek, and something inside me snapped. I had never been a violent person, but in that moment, I wanted to tear her apart. The only thing that stopped me was Emma's desperate struggle to breathe. She needed me, not a mother in jail. With shaking hands, I reattached the oxygen tube while she gasped for air. Margaret just stood there watching, completely unmoved. "I'm calling the police," I said, grabbing my phone. "Go ahead," she replied smugly. "I'll tell them your daughter attacked me." Who do you think they'll believe? A respected community leader or a welfare mother with a problem child? But I wasn't just calling 911. I was calling my mother. We hadn't spoken in 2 years. Our relationship had been strained after my father died, and life had pulled us apart. But as I looked at Emma's swollen face, I knew I needed help. She answered on the first ring. "Sarah, what's wrong?" "Mom," my voice broke. "I need you." Someone hurt Emma. There was a pause. Then her voice returned, cold and controlled. "I'll be there." And everything changed after that.